Welcome to the online training, Testing Your Well Water in Proximity to Hydraulic Fracturing. It is provided to you by the National Groundwater Association with support from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. This training takes about 15 minutes. The time you invest in it could protect your drinking water quality and your health. Make sure to take the quiz after you finish to see what you've learned. Why is it important to test your well water? First, without a water test before hydraulic fracturing begins, it is difficult, if not impossible, to determine whether oil and gas operations have impacted water quality. Second, beyond testing in relation to hydraulic fracturing, the water quality in private wells is not regulated by federal agencies or most state governments. And third, many domestic well owners have never tested their water even though the potential may exist for contamination to be present. It's important to know the quality of your drinking water regardless of local activities such as hydraulic fracturing. Changes in your water quality such as variation in taste, odor, or clarity, effervescence, and sputtering from the tap may signal impacts to water quality worth testing. Changes in surrounding land use, not just hydraulic fracturing, can impact private well water. Another reason to test is that many hazardous contaminants are undetectable to the senses. To learn more about water testing in general, view 2 lessons on the subject available through the National Groundwater Association website, wellowner.org. There are sound reasons why oil and gas development companies take pre-drill water samples. First, this can be important for the company's insurance purposes. Pre-testing also protects these companies from false claims or regulatory fines. Second, pre-drill testing can identify pre-existing poor water quality, which may be useful information to both the company, regulators, and the private water well owner. Third, pre-drill testing provides an improved understanding of the general water quality in the vicinity of oil and gas operations. And fourth, pre-drill testing gives oil and gas companies an opportunity to improve relations with landowners in the community in seeking to overcome misconceptions and misunderstandings. What are the risks to private well water quality in areas where hydraulic fracturing takes place? This is an area that is under intense study. In at least one state, Pennsylvania, where hydraulic fracturing is taking place on a widespread basis, data from regulatory agencies and studies indicate that more than 95% of domestic well complaints related to nearby oil and gas production activities were due to pre-existing conditions or other land use activities. Depending on the state, different entities may collect pre-drill water samples, including the oil and gas industry, drilling contractors, private well owners, and state regulatory agencies. When testing well water prior to hydraulic fracturing activity, it is imperative that the water sampling be performed by a professional who is familiar with up-to-date water sampling protocols and laboratory protocols. Otherwise, the results may have little or no value. You can find a certified drinking water testing lab by going to your appropriate state agency using the link pictured here. You also can find this link on the homepage of wellowner.org. This chart shows common testing parameters for establishing baseline monitoring of groundwater prior to hydraulic fracturing activity. Recommended testing parameters may vary depending on who is doing the testing. It should be noted that the makeup of hydraulic fracturing fluids may vary depending on the oil and gas development company or the geologic setting in which the hydraulic fracturing is taking place. Here are some review questions. If a well owner takes a water test the correct period of time after hydraulic fracturing takes place, this is the most important step in determining the well water has been contaminated. True or false? The answer is false. Without a water test before hydraulic fracturing begins, it is difficult, if not impossible, to determine whether oil and gas operations have impacted water quality. Question: who may collect pre-drill water samples related to hydraulic fracturing? A, the oil and gas industry. B, drilling contractors. C, private well owners. D, state regulatory agencies. And E, any of the above. The answer is that any of the above might initiate the collection of water samples for testing related to hydraulic fracturing, depending on applicable state laws. Question: before hydraulic fracturing begins in one's area, a well owner should collect a sample of water at the tap in a sterile jar for lab analysis. True or false? The answer is false. It is imperative that water sampling be performed by a professional who's familiar with up-to-date water sampling protocols and laboratory protocols. Otherwise, their results may have little or no value. A common concern of well owners is the potential risk to drinking water associated with chemicals contained in hydraulic fracturing fluids. Most chemicals used are of such quantities that when diluted would pose little risk to groundwater if released outside the targeted fracking zone at depth. This chart shows that typically more than 99% of hydraulic fracturing fluid is composed of water and sand. 1% or less is generally made up of chemicals. Most of the risk to groundwater is associated with the transport and handling of concentrated chemicals on the surface and with the management of fluids brought back up out of the hydraulic fracturing well. Another common concern of private well owners near hydraulic fracturing activity is the presence of methane in their water. It is important to note that methane can be naturally occurring, especially in oil and gas production areas. While there is no health standard set for methane, the main concern is the potential explosion hazard if the concentration of methane is high enough, particularly in confined spaces. States vary in their advice as to what concentration of methane in water should be of concern and worthy of further investigation. When testing for the presence of methane, it is important to know that recent studies have shown variations in the concentrations of methane in well water over time. Where there is any indication of change, repeat sampling is recommended. Here are some more review questions. Most of the risk to well water from hydraulic fracturing is associated with transport and handling of concentrated chemicals on the surface and the management of produced waters from the production well. True or false? The answer is true. Question: methane in well water can occur naturally, and its level in well water can vary depending on when the sample was taken. True or false? The answer is true. Methane in well water can occur naturally, especially in oil and gas production areas. Recent studies have indicated variations in concentrations of methane in well water over time. Some, but not all states have programs requiring pre-drill water quality sampling for hydraulic fracturing. If you live in one of the following states, pause the slide to read the details of your program. Among the states with pre-drill water quality sampling for hydraulic fracturing are Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, North Dakota, California, New York, Colorado, Illinois, Wyoming, and Louisiana and North Carolina. What happens to data when operators collect the samples? The answer is it varies. In Pennsylvania, the operator provides the data to the state. In Colorado, Illinois, New York, Ohio, and Wyoming, the operator provides data to the state and the domestic well owner. In North Dakota, there are no obvious provisions for where the data goes. And in West Virginia, the operator retains the data and well owners are encouraged to test their own water. To access water testing information geared toward the well owner, visit wellowner.org and click on Water Quality, then Hydraulic Fracturing, or www.fracfocus.org, operated by the Groundwater Protection Council. To learn more about how to approach treating your water, visit www.wellowner.org and take our online lesson, Treating Your Water, Contaminants that Present a Health Risk or Other Problems. Go to www.wellowner.org to find out more about useful private well owner information tools, including the Private Well Owner Hotline at 855-420-9355, the Private Well Owner Tip Sheet, a monthly email of helpful water well tips available through wellowner.org, more online well owner lessons, and upcoming free well owner webinars.